Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of sources, distill the core insights, and provide you with the intellectual ammunition you need to thrive.
And today we are taking a trip way back to the Iron Age.
We're focusing on this incredibly enduring piece of counsel from the Norse world. And I want to be clear, we are not talking about mythology, gods, or dragons.
No, not at all. This is pure, cold, practical survival intelligence.
So what's the source?
We're diving deep into the Hávamál, which means the sayings of the High One.
Oh.
And for anyone unfamiliar, this is a foundational collection of Old Norse poems. It's a manuscript of direct, actionable wisdom, and it's attributed to the high god Odin himself.
So straight from the top.
Right. But the crucial thing you have to understand is the context. This advice wasn't written for leisure. It was written for a world that was just unforgiving, chaotic.
Completely unpredictable. Exactly. And that's our mission here. To treat this as the ultimate philosophy of the road. It's, custom tailored for a listener who recognizes that modern life, with all its swings and turbulence, can still feel like a cold trek.
Well, and that context immediately sets it apart from classical philosophy, doesn't it?
How so?
If you look at the core advice from the ancient world, Stoicism, for example, essentially says be indifferent to external things.
Right. Control what you can control.
And Buddhism advises, attachment is suffering, seek detachment. The Norse perspective is just startlingly different.
Because it's born from a different reality.
A much harsher one. They basically tell you external things are dangerous, people are unpredictable, and your time is short. So wake up, sharpen your wit, and make yourself useful.
Wow. That is a brutal but necessary reframing. It immediately prioritizes external competence over internal calm.
Well, see, those two are very much linked.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I want to start with the very first piece of advice in the sources because it really sets the tone for everything else.
It's a fantastic opening. The first stanza of the Hávamál is a direct instruction for the wanderer. So, for the person who is always stepping into an unknown situation.
Which is all of us, really.
Pretty much, before you cross any threshold, before you enter any new space, you are commanded to look around and spy out every corner.
And the reason for that?
It's simple and existential. You never know where an enemy might be sitting.
In the Viking Age, that could literally mean a foe with an axe hiding in the rafters. But how does that visceral life or death concept of the watchful eye translate to us today?
Yeah, in the relative safety of modern life.
Right. I can imagine some listeners thinking, isn't this just promoting paranoia?
And that's the critical challenge, but the philosophy addresses it beautifully. This isn't paranoia, it's what you might call strategic mindfulness.
Strategic mindfulness, I like that.
The obsession with social observation is all about gathering data, not fostering suspicion. They teach a guest should be wary. His ears listen, his eyes watch. It's about being perceptive.
So becoming a better person starts with just being a more observant person.
Exactly. Not a spiritual journey initially. It was about being a highly competent, observant person.
Okay, so let's apply this. Give me a specific, high-stress, modern scenario, like a really crucial negotiation or a hostile meeting. If I walk into that room, what should I be looking for?
You're watching for points of friction and alliance. Don't focus on what's being said officially. Watch who speaks first and who speaks last.
The power dynamics.
All of it. Observe the nonverbals. Who avoids eye contact when a tough question is asked? Whose chair is physically turned away from the main speaker? Who is quietly directing the whole conversation with just a few glances?
You're gathering context. That's the ultimate tool against getting caught off guard.
Yes. I love this idea of using observation as an anti-stress mechanism.
Because our first impulse when we feel stressed is to talk, right?
Yeah.
To vent, to complain about the situation.
But Odin's advice would be the exact opposite.
Stop talking.
Precisely. If you are overwhelmed in a complex situation, the Norse wouldn't say, look inward right away. They'd say, stop talking, stop complaining, sit in the corner of the hall or the meeting and just watch. Listen to what isn't being said.
The truth is in the silences.
And the glances.
So the aha moment here is that this reduces stress by killing the element of surprise.
Yes.
The Viking watches the room to find the truth, to understand the map. The Buddhist watches their breath to find peace. Both are mindfulness, but the Norse version is explicitly for action.
This is for preparedness. If you read the map correctly, the sudden shock is lessened because you saw the possibilities. You trade reaction for anticipation.
And anticipation is competence. That's what gives you real psychological fortitude.
Exactly.
Okay, we focused heavily on external awareness, reading the room, spying out corners. But if the world demands so much observation, Why do we constantly sabotage our own ability to do it?
And that's where the Hávamál turns inward.
To the internal checks.
And the famous warning about self-control. This is the necessary pivot. The most dangerous enemy is often the one you invite into your own hall.
Which is your ego, or
Yeah.
your lack of discipline.
Right. And the poem gives one of its most vivid metaphors here, the heron of forgetfulness.
Tell us about this heron. It sounds almost whimsical, but I get the feeling it's not.
It is lethal. The warning is that when you drink too much, or, maybe let your own arrogance cloud your judgment, a specific kind of mental fog descends, and a spectral heron hovers over you. And that bird, it actively steals your wits, your capacity for clear thought and strategic observation.
This feels intensely relevant. We might not be drinking flagons of mead, but we are definitely fighting off the modern heron of forgetfulness.
What do you mean?
I mean, the constant drive toward mindless numbing. Excessive consumption, binge watching, letting endless digital distraction replace focused thought.
So the Norse are calling out modern self-medication as just active foolishness.
Yes, it's intellectual laziness disguised as relaxation.
And the problem isn't the temporary escape. It's that the loss of wits leaves you vulnerable. In a world that demands constant information processing, sacrificing your judgment for cheap relief is the ultimate high-risk move.
It ensures you won't spot the enemy you were warned about in the first section.
And this leads directly to their core warning against arrogance. The source material is ruthless about the prideful fool.
Utterly ruthless.
They have this devastating stanza that's aimed right at people who refuse to test their theories against reality. It says, "A fool thinks he knows everything if he sits safe in a corner."
The ancient version of the armchair critic.
Or the keyboard warrior. It's a warning against intellectual complacency, confusing having an opinion with having actual knowledge or experience.
So, if I'm reading this right, the implication is that false certainty arrogance is a massive vulnerability.
A huge one.
Because if you think you know everything, you stop observing, you stop listening. The watchful eye just closes.
Exactly. The most dangerous state is thinking you are secure or certain. The Norse lived in radical uncertainty. Their survival depended on the constant humility of the learner.
If you're certain, you become predictable.
And predictability is death in a chaotic world.
So what does this all mean for you listening today, navigating information overload? We live in an era where everyone feels like they have to have an opinion on everything.
Right, where social currency is gained by being the loudest voice.
The most certain voice.
Well, according to this philosophy, the most practical thing you can do to lower your stress is to embrace intellectual humility. Embrace the posture of the silent wise man.
It's okay to not have an opinion yet.
It is profoundly wise to admit you don't know enough to have an opinion yet. Save your words. The loud fool is an easy target. The silent observer is gathering power.
That's a perfect transition to our final and maybe most difficult section. Permanence, wealth, and the ethics of reputation.
Right. If we are humble and we are observant, what exactly are we supposed to building in this short, chaotic life?
This is where the sources bring up that famous memento mori line.
This is probably the most quoted and brutal stanza of the whole thing. Cattle die and kinsmen die.
Just a cold, hard fact.
The absolute cold reality of their existence. Everything you own, your wealth, your status, and everyone you love will eventually pass away. That's the starting point.
Wow, that's a huge burden of truth to drop. But what's so fascinating is the conclusion they draw from that. They don't say, so throw your hands up, nothing matters.
Not at all. They pivot. They pivot to the only asset they consider truly durable, something that outlasts economic collapse, natural disaster, everything.
And that is?
But a good reputation that never dies.
That reframes the entire concept of investing. I mean, if you connect this back to modern anxiety, worrying about stock accounts, market crashes, how fragile our digital careers feel.
Odin's message is so powerful. Those assets, those numbers on a screen, they're just cattle.
He will die.
They will die. The ultimate non-dying asset, the one thing you can carry through any storm, is your word.
Your reputation.
And that word, that reputation, isn't built by being famous or rich. The sources define it through action.
So what does that mean, a good reputation?
It means being known as someone who shows up when they say they will. Someone who helps a friend in a storm and, crucially, speaks the truth even when it's costly.
It's an asset that guarantees you access to others when you need them most.
Yeah.
No market volatility can erode that.
It's genuine resilience. But it isn't built in isolation, is it? It requires constant upkeep.
Of relationships.
Absolutely. The emphasis on loyalty and connection is paramount. And I love the beautiful stanza on the maintenance of friendship because it speaks directly to the effort required.
Which one is that?
If you have a friend you trust, visit him often. The path grows over with grass and brush if it is not walked upon.
That's such a profound insight into social capital. It requires intentional maintenance.
You can't just assume your connections will be there when the storm hits if you haven't been walking that path all along.
It really speaks to our modern sense of connection. We have thousands of digital friends, but how many paths are we truly walking?
How many relationships are we actively tending? The Norse are not teaching you to be a stoic island, closing yourself off to avoid pain. They recognize man is the joy of man,
You are meant to be part of a shield wall.
where loyalty is your most valuable and actively maintained currency. A well-tended relationship is literally a defense mechanism in their philosophy.
It's what keeps the cold out.
It's the difference between standing alone when the wind hits and having a line of people whose loyalty you have earned standing shoulder to shoulder with you.
That brings us to the wrap-up. We've covered the vigilance of the watchful eye, the internal discipline to fight the heron of forgetfulness, and focusing on reputation as the only true asset. So, what's the single most important action-oriented takeaway for the listener to apply tomorrow morning?
The ultimate theme of the Hávamál is pure, unadulterated action. This is not a philosophy about endlessly reflecting on problems. It's about engaging with them and acting until they are solved.
And there's a stanza for that.
Well, of course. It's the early bird stanza, but with a hard edge. Odin instructs, "He must rise early who wants another's life or land."
A mandate for proactive engagement. For us today, that means if you want to conquer your goals, your professional life, your sense of control, your metaphorical land, you have to rise early.
Both literally, in being productive, and figuratively. Be the first to observe, the first to act, the first to offer help.
So be proactive, be engaged.
And be the three attentities the Hávamál encourages. Be the guest who is wise and observes the whole room.
Be the friend who is loyal and actively tends the path.
And above all, remain the wanderer who is always learning, always seeking knowledge, and never ever claiming to know everything.
Life, as the Norse knew it and as we often experience it, is a cold wind. But the Hávamál provides the instructions to build a warm hearth for yourself, secured not by wealth, but by the integrity of your character.
So go out there and execute. Watch the corners, cultivate humility, and most importantly, keep your word. The value of your reputation compounds daily, but only if that path is walked upon.
And the final thought to mull over.
Just this. If everything you own is destined to die, what are you doing today to build the one thing that won't?